Oh, I see.
I've got an idea, sorry. It's just, what was it like trying to keep the filming secret from the rest of the cast when you were working on the Red Dwarf USA project?
When we were working on the
Red Dwarf USA project.
Oh, what was it?
Yeah, what was it like trying to keep it secret from all the UK cast?
It wasn't much fun, I think is a fair way of saying it. I mean, I was asked by the producers in America and everybody not to say anything. And I mean, it actually wasn't confirmed that I was going until long after we finished. I mean, I'd heard about it when we were filming, but I didn't actually agree to go until quite a couple of months later, or a few weeks later. I was in Australia when I agreed to go. But it was difficult because, you know, we're a very tight-knit group, and it did feel odd. But it was once I got to America, I kind of understood the whole shenanigans that had gone on, and it was, you know, an experiment, a brave experiment. And I had a great time. It was a wonderful opportunity for me. But I have to say, personally, it was a relief when they didn't run with it, because I didn't particularly want to live in Los Angeles, and not at that time in my life. You know, it was just odd. But it was, yes, the set in America was exactly the same as the set in England, only bigger. And that was, I don't know, it's a sort of tired old anecdote in a way, but there's the entrance to the living quarters on the British set. I had to just slightly dip my head because it was sort of there. And also you got very limited awareness with the mask on, so I did bang my head quite a few times. So I would naturally come into that and go like that to go through. And I was doing the same thing in the same set in America, except that the top of the door was like up there. It was absolutely huge. So it was the same set, only bigger. So it was an odd experience. And oddly as well, the guy who played Lister was Craig, and the guy who played Rimmer was Chris, and that was quite bizarre. Chris Eichmann and Craig Bierko, those two actors, who were brilliant actors. I mean, Craig Bierko is often in like Sex in the City, and you see him as the hunky sort of sex bomb man. He's a very handsome chap. Not that I find it.
I'm here, Robert.
Here. No idea. There.
No.
Oh, there. Hi.
Hi. For the episode DNA, when Crichton becomes human, did you find that more enjoyable to do without the burden of the mask on the...
No. That was a very revealing experience for me, because I hated it. I can't watch that one. I didn't like it at all. I think the cute thing, I don't look... you may have noticed that I do a lot of acting. And I don't like to particularly... I mean, I'm not pursuing an acting career, but I love doing Crichton because I watch it. I can actually watch Red Dwarf because it's Crichton. And occasionally I'll hear a flat vowel or I'll hear a line delivered wrongly and it'll drive me mad and I can't bear it and I wish I'd done it again. But on the whole, I enjoy watching that show because I love the other guys so much. And I think Crichton is such a brilliant character. And it doesn't feel like watching yourself, whereas that one, it suddenly came out. Naff bloke coming out, and I just hated it. And what the irony of that particular recording was my nephew, who now works in the television industry, he's a production manager, he's very successful, but he was a young lad then, I think he would have been 10 or 11, and my sister brought him along to see the recording, and he was very, very excited about it, because he'd got an uncle who was a robot, and he was like really thrilled, and he sat in the audience, he was like this little lad, all excited, and then we pre-recorded all the stuff with me in the mask, so on the night of the recording, I just walked out and it was just his bloody uncle, who's really boring. And you can see his face. I remember watching it now, so we sat out and got ready, and that was the scene where the double Polaroid happens, all that stuff. And I sort of, in this weird gown, which of course they wanted to have the back open so that people would, you know, all the normal jokes, with Craig undoing the little ribbon so that it flopped. Oh, God. But, and then I looked out at the audience, and there's my little nephew, Ben, because he was hoping to see the robot man, and that's his bloody uncle, who was more boring than anything he could see. That stayed in my memory very strongly. But he's got over it now, just about. Years of therapy. Yes?
Hello, Robert.
Hi.
In the scene Camille, what was it like with the scene with Craig Charles as Lister, when Lister was teaching Crichton to tell lies?
Oh, yeah, it was fun. I mean, Craig and I love doing those sort of scenes. I mean, it was just wonderful, really good fun. I mean, that was one of the real joys of that. I mean, all of the cast of Red Dwarf came out of a live performing tradition. None of us were really sort of actors in the traditional sense. We'd all been stand-up comedians or dancers or, you know, comic performers in that sense. So to do a show, to do a thing like that where we were pretty sure it was pretty funny before we did it, and then you do it in front of an audience, and the response was just fabulous. I mean, it was just lovely to do. It was an absolute joy. I mean, that happened a lot on Red Dwarf, and that in Polymorph, when the shrinking boxer shorts. Now, I mean, I'd done at that stage probably 10 years of live performing in front of big audiences, doing comedy stuff, some of which was funny, not always. But you know, you get big laughs and you learn how to work with an audience that was laughing like that. And that on that night, the whole thing fell apart because we literally, truthfully, couldn't hear each other's lines. And Craig was like that far away from me, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. He couldn't hear me. And then Chris comes in to say, "You bonk anything, mister." And we didn't hear him, so we carried on, and we thought it had all gone wrong. And then we had to do that scene about 5 times, and the audience just the idea of a robot with a very large groin attachment removing the shorts of a young Liverpudlian. I mean, what's wrong with that? It's serious drama. I love my groin attachment, I must say. I'm really happy.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, this question is on sort of behalf of everyone, and it is to do with your groinal attachment.
Good girl. Always ask a mechanoid about his groinal attachment.
We want to know what your favourite one is.
I mean, stirring coffee. You know, that takes some skill. That was such a joy to stir the coffee with the groin attachment. I mean, it really worked. That was, you know, often those things you do, it's not really doing the thing that you're pretending it's doing it, but the stirrer worked. It stirred that coffee. If you turned it on full, you could spray coffee all over the room. Believe me, I did. But that was also because Crichton smoked in that, didn't he? He lit a cigarette. Well, I didn't. I mean, I'm a terrible on-off smoker, but I gave up smoking for 11 years, and that was about year 9 of my 11-year not smoking at all. And I suddenly had to and it was just horrible. It was really vile. But then Craig lured me back into the filthy habit. It's all his fault. I blame Craig really for everything that's gone wrong in my life for the last 20 years. I blame Craig. That's the best thing. Well, the press do the same thing every now and then, don't they? So why not join in? There's a man here with a dog.
Hello there, it's some ways from Country News. I was wondering, all this carpool and that on your YouTube and that, could you ever consider doing that on DVD for us all?
Well, I could do. I'm just recovering from the fact that I've been asked a question by a dog.
That's all right, you don't get questions about that one.
Yes, it could do. It has been muted. Yes, to relieve to do more DVD because they are all shot as high definition. They're all high def, so I had to squash them down to put them on the internet. So the actual original footage is very, very posh.
So thank you, look, proper job, innit?
Thank you. I've got to get proper job in the car, but he'll wreck it. He'll cut it in half or something.
We've got 2 more questions.
2 more questions.